What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's Vodcast, and we're lucky to have the assistant head football coach and offensive coordinator of All Saints Academy, based out of Winter Haven in Florida, Coach Jason Smith. Coach Smith has been coaching out in Florida for over 25 years in a range of positions, from head coach all the way down to assistant coach across various levels. Feel free to reach out to Coach Smith on Twitter at Coach Shrek if you want to talk ball. He's always open to talking and chatting away. So as always, the links will be in the of all the socials will be down below in the description. And without further ado, let's welcome Coach on. What's happening, Coach?
Appreciate the opportunity. Hey, how's it going? Appreciate the chance to be on.
No, thank you for giving up your time. It's always good to get coaches on and help grow the knowledge base of coaches, especially abroad. We don't really get this the clinic style, so it's
Right.
always good to get some online content for everyone. So let's go with. I'll let you open it up, introduce yourself, let the people know about you.
Okay. I started coaching shortly after I graduated high school. I went and played for a year in college, University of Central Florida. Was blessed to have the opportunity. I grew up in the Tampa area of Florida, and then went to UCF. Had a chance to play there way back when they were Division One AA, and had just come out of the national semifinals. Got to go there. Got an injury, so didn't go back after my freshman year. Came home and just sort of started working, doing some things, and then I went and visited one of my old coaches, and he had just taken over my old high school, being the head coach, and said, "Hey, I really need some help." So me and one of our other players came out and started in spring. I was like, "Oh, okay, I've got some free time. I'll just, this will be sort of fun to do." And once I started, I really enjoyed it, and I wasn't a teacher or anything. I was just working. I did youth ministry at churches. I was working construction when I started coaching there, actually. And then just over the years, I've continued to coach football. I've also coached track and wrestling, even coached girls flag football and basketball for boys basketball, and coached little league football. So really got a taste of all the levels of it. And I really was blessed by coaches that I had when I played in high school that encouraged me. And I looked at that and I said, okay, I need to give back to the game, if you would,
Mm-hmm.
because they really helped me. Before I ever started playing football, I had open heart surgery and didn't think I'd ever make it back. And I actually got to play 8 weeks later, and all my coaches supported it. So that was really sort of the catalyst of how I saw how important coaches were, as role models and as encouragers, and also sometimes to be that kick of motivation that we all need at times to get us going. And then through the years, being able to go back and coach at different high schools and work, I've been able to coach with some of my coaches that coached me in high school. So that was a really fun opportunity to be on the same staff with the guys that coached me. And I was able to tell those kids that we were coaching together, hey, this is the same way these guys have been for years. This is the expectation. This is the standard. Believe their word when they do it. And they really took me under their wing and helped me. And then one of them, actually, when I was a head coach, he came out of retirement for spring football and coached with me to help get the program started. So it's, the coaching profession is, we all say it, it's a true brotherhood and a fraternity. And I really think it's about all supporting each other and encouraging one another. And just, we're all trying to give back to the game, but I think we all know the importance of what sport, and obviously for us, it's football,
Mm-hmm.
how we can use that as a tool for young men to really do that. So I had plenty of opportunities as an assistant coach. I've been a head JV coach, head freshman coach, and didn't have my college degree because I always fit coaching in with my full-time jobs and doing church work and church ministry and different sales jobs, whatever it was. And then finally, about five years ago, saw that an opening was coming up at a small school, and was able to go there. Knew a couple of the people at the school, and in 2016 got to launch a program, being the head coach there, and got to serve there for a short time, and then had an opportunity to really go to a great program where I'm at now. The school was very supportive of the program, and our head coach is also the athletic director, which really helps to shape the direction of where we go as a department. And I knew that they supported athletics instead of just wanting to have a football team. He was able to really guide that. So that's sort of long story, somewhat short, of how I've ended up where I'm at now over the years. And, even got to coach with some guys that I coached as players. And, so it's definitely a full circle thing. Have coached kids of guys that I played ball with, which really makes me feel old. You'll notice the gray hair and the beard. So, so it's definitely been a fun ride. I've had horrible seasons at least on the win-loss record, but that we made just some great memories and some great young men that I got to meet. And we were able a few years ago to win a state championship in our conference here. And everything in between to see, just how great this sport really is. So it's a great opportunity. I can't see myself doing anything else. I've always told people, even if I won the lottery and had millions of dollars, I would still be the one to be out there coaching. I'd be fishing a lot more in between out on a boat, but I would still be coaching in season.
Absolutely. So you touched on it briefly there. You were a head coach, and then you decided to make the decision to drop back down the ladder, for one,
right?
And go to another program, and go back to being an assistant coach / coordinator. What made you choose to do that? Because I know a lot of coaches, once they make it up to a head coach, they have trouble letting go. I'm one of them. So it would be a tough call for me to go back to being, in someone else's program under a head coach. So what made you choose that?
There was a lot of factors. One, the school that I was at, some of the things just weren't there looking at the future to really, with the current situation, at the time they had, it just wasn't. The more and more we got into it and going through a season, I'm going, okay, we're banging our heads against the wall to try to get some things that should be normal. And then when the opportunity came up, and I had worked with our current head coach and athletic director, and now we work together because I also run the athletic conference we're in. But I really just saw his passion for the game. We thought about things the same. And I had to really check if it was about me and my ego and a title. And by no means, are all head coaches that way, but I had to check myself and go, well, wait a minute, what's more important to me? An opportunity to make the investment, make a difference, or for me to have this title? Because I felt like I had worked my tail off to finally get to that point. Not having my degree, I couldn't just go to a public school and be a head coach. If I had, there were some opportunities that if I'd had a degree, I would have had that chance to do. But as I talked to, our head coach, and as we've gotten to know each other, and now we're great friends after coaching 3 years together, it was really just about where can we build this program together, and it really doesn't matter what my title is at that point. It's about how are we going to do things, and in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when I see those same kids in this program, are they going to remember if I was head coach, kicking coach, or offensive coordinator, or was it just, hey, that was my coach? And so that really weighed into it, and it was tough. When we first got to this program, the previous head coach left. We got here 2 weeks before the season started. So everything was on the fly. The kids had loved, the previous head coach. He left to take a better job as an assistant coach and assistant athletic director at a great school. And once we got them to buy, the first 3 or 4 games, there were some nights I was questioning what in the world had I done. The school is about a 45-minute drive from my house instead of 10 minutes at my old school. So there was a lot of that questioning. And we started out the season that year 1-4, and I'm going, great. I could have done this at our old place, and and then we turned it around and won the state championship that year. We were the underdogs, and one of our coaches, we only had 3 of us. One coach was sick, missed over half the season. Oh, wow. So essentially 2 of us with 30 kids had to do everything. Mm-hmm. And that really sort of endeared the school to my heart. That coach and I obviously built a great relationship out of that as a result of going through some of those things, because we have each other's back and know, okay, look, you're doing everything. Okay, you're doing this, you're doing that. And so it was a tough call. And other guys even asked me, going, man, you finally got head coach, and I think you really we're going to be able to be successful. And I said, look, I get it, but the overall trajectory of where I came to was much better than where I was. Mm-hmm. And so it was sort of that looking in the mirror thing, going, hey, I can go coach ball. It's still a 100-yard field by 53.5 yards, and these kids still need it. We've got 185 kids in our high school. So it's that small school feeling and getting to know the kids, and it's about the relationships. So that was really the biggest thing in the decision was what's the future track look like, and it really wasn't tied to a title.
Yep.
As much as in my mind I had built it up to be, once I got that head coach position, I was like, I'm never giving this up until they're going to fire me. Starting a program, I was like, okay, I've got at least 4 years before that happens, and it just really was about what does the future hold for the program and for us working with these kids. So it was not an easy decision, but I definitely wouldn't change it now after seeing where we've gotten to and the relationships and friendships I've built.
Nice. So then what about your current program really, really sets it apart for you and makes you not want to go chasing titles, and things like that?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and as you and I had talked in the chat before this, some of those opportunities came about again this year, and I had to make some of those judgment calls again. And the kids that we have, they're going to be seniors this year, were freshmen when we got here. And the way we've seen them mature, we've seen some new kids come into the program as a result of what they built. And like one thing for us, before we got there, they had beat the rival one time. They beat them the year before we got there. And prior to that, they were 0-11. 3 out of the last 4 years, we've beat our crosstown rival. And in the 3 years we've been there, we've won a division championship and a state championship, and we've beat them 2 years in a row. And they had the far superior athletes. Mm-hmm. But our kids really put their nose to the grindstone. They've responded every time we've challenged them to step up. This senior class really excites me, not because of just the athletic ability, which some of them have great athletic ability. Mm-hmm. But we just graduated a quarterback that had 5,000 all-purpose yards in 2 years. And now we're replacing him with a sophomore. Potentially is going to be the starting quarterback, it looks like. Mm-hmm. And I like this team from the neck up better than probably any team I've ever coached, because, that sophomore is blowing up my phone at 1 a.m. Hey, coach, I was looking at the film. I thought about this, or I think this. And and not just X's and O's, but about the culture and saying, Coach, we're not going to accept some of the things that the guys previous years have. We're not going to be late to practice. We're not going to miss practice. We're not going to, we're going to be more focused because we want to win a championship again. We're hungry again. So that really made me want to stay. And one of the coaching jobs was 15 minutes from my house. It would have been easy to go there, and was starting a program from scratch. But to see this through with this senior class, to see the hunger that they have again as a program, to see them, asking the right questions. Plus, they all take their academics so seriously. Every one of my prospects right now for this year has a 3.0 plus. We've got kids with a 3.8, a 4.0. So they're successful in the classroom and on the field. And we constantly preach to them. Last year our theme was brotherhood. The year before it was battle ready. This year it's being relentless. And I couldn't look at those kids and tell them, say, hey, we're talking about being relentless and attacking everything we do and sticking with it. And then say, hey, by the way, I found a better opportunity for me, so I'm leaving the team. And I forget, I'm not sure who the first one who said it is, but they say family means forget about me, I love you. And that's really what these guys have developed these last 3 seasons, is that they really care about each other. They're not worried about their own stats. The one kid who I'm looking at as a quarterback, he told me, he said, Coach, I don't care where you play me. He said, just not on the line, because he's only about 5'9", 160. But, his whole attitude, he said, Coach, if we find a better quarterback, if a kid transfers in, he said, I want what's best for the team. Play him there. I'll find another position. And you don't find that often.
No.
We've got kids that throughout this, they're texting me, and when we do get to see them on the Zoom calls, they're like, Coach, I miss seeing you guys. One of them comes up in PE class and hugs me, one day after the season, like, man, I miss seeing you guys every day. And I'm like, that's why I got into coaching. And I couldn't walk away from that and feel good about, oh, hey, here's what's best for me. Good luck to you guys. And, we'll see you down the road. So it was really that. So it's just an exciting time for our program. For me and our head coach, we spent a lot of time together talking about it. And it's just really the future's the brightest we've seen it since we've been there. We just got a new headmaster for the school. She is absolutely awesome for the academic side, but she also sees that the athletics, it doesn't have to be an either or. So really, we've got the perfect storm of great things happening for us as a program.
Right. The kids. Lovely. Being an assistant coach versus being the head coach, where ultimately it's your decision, your call. Right. Do you still feel like, as an assistant coach, you have some ownership and input into the culture and the program direction where you are? And do you think that's a good thing and necessary?
I 100% do. And again, it's become more and more input and ownership since we got here. And, for me to make the decision to come here, the head coach said, hey, you're going to have input into this, and everything that he promised in the transition has happened, from the play calling. But for me, I'm big on the culture and the relationship thing. And so we've built that together because he's also the athletic director. I've really been blessed with the opportunity for him to say, hey, you think of some ideas and things, bring it to me, and we'll roll it out. And 99.9% of the things that we talk about, I'm like, oh, Coach, I'd like to do this. He's like, okay, let's do it, make it happen. And then he enables me to be able to make those things happen, whether it's a team activity, reinforcing our theme, sending out some clips about things to encourage the culture on the team, little things at practice to hold the guys accountable. This year we're really making strides. Starting in the locker room, I've been doing a lot of reading with the downtime, thanks to the pandemic, just on some culture things. And even watching the Last Dance special with Michael Jordan and the quote, him talking about, look, I had to challenge some guys who didn't want to be challenged. I had to pull some guys who didn't want to be pulled. And we're able to do that now. We're instilling that in some of our kids. So I definitely have 100% ownership in the program as if I was the head coach because he and I work so well together. But I also think it's crucially important that head coaches don't work on those things in a silo, because you can't implement culture from a silo. Oh, the head coach says. It's got to be our coaches say, and they've got to see us live it. They've got to see us amongst our coaching staff do that with each other. So I think that is a crucial thing to staying somewhere as an assistant coach. But also, if you're looking to be an assistant coach somewhere, to know you have that opportunity. I look at Clemson as a perfect example. Their DC, Brent Venables, has been there forever. That dude can coach the ball wherever he'd want to go get a job, but he chooses to stay there with Coach Swiney because he sees the culture, and they've created that together, and it's a part of them. It's part of their DNA. It's not just, as I've read some of their stuff, it's not just words on a poster to them. It's become a part of the program DNA. And that's crucial to me as being an assistant coach is, one, what is the culture like before I come in? And then how much of that can I help influence with, obviously, the head coach's approval? So it's been really a great fit for being able to do that. I probably get to do as much or more in the culture and influencing side of things as an assistant coach than anybody I know as an assistant coach in programs that I've talked to. So I definitely count my blessings on that every day.
What are things that head coaches and coordinators for that fact, since they're the head coach of their side of the ball, what can they do to really empower the assistant coaches in the coaching staff? Just little things that has happened for you or you've thought about.
I think the biggest thing is to have two-way communication. And you look at some of the things that, Alabama, they show clips of Saban turning around and, sort of barking at one of his assistant coaches. But when you really get behind the scenes and peel back the curtain and hear about their program, his assistant coaches do get to communicate with him. And so that's just him saying, the standard above all. But the biggest thing I've had, and I've been with some great head coaches where I have been able to be involved with that, but we would have those two-way conversations. And if there was ever a disagreement of something I saw or wanted to make a suggestion, it was me and him behind a closed door, so that it would never seem, even to other coaches on the staff, oh, well, he thinks he knows better than the head coach, or he's questioning the head coach. Because I've worked with guys on staffs that the assistant coaches will say something, well, if I was the head coach, I would do this. Well, that's not our place to state that to a player. You are there to, 100% solidify that the head coach is the head coach, and it's their decision and their program, and we're all a part of it. And so that's probably one of the most frustrating things to me is assistant coaches who are like, oh, yeah, well, I can say this or I'll do this because I would do this different. But when the head coach communicates two ways and shares that with the staff of guys, here's the direction we're going. And then to just impart his vision, because it's not just always taught, it's what's caught. So I've been at programs about 10 years ago. I was the head coach was a guy that I had coached as a player. He was water boy when I played at my high school, and I coached him at that high school. But he and I were there together until midnight on game nights, throwing the laundry in, cleaning up the locker room. And he never was telling everybody, you do this, you do this. It was caught that he was so invested in the program. He was willing to do laundry. He wasn't above it because he had the title head coach. It was what needed to be done for the program. So I think that's a big thing, is just as head coaches really communicate and look at your assistant coaches that, if you look at a Nick Saban and some of these guys, their coaching tree, it's because they've invested in those coaches and encouraged them when the opportunities are there.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, go. And then you really become an extension of that coach to a whole nother program. And so I think head coaches can take pride in creating opportunities for their coaches, that they would have a chance to go somewhere, and instead of an assistant coach, they're a coordinator, or instead of a coordinator, they get to be a head coach. But I also think part of the best head coaches create environments that, while those opportunities may exist for you, they've created a culture that you don't want to leave because you enjoy it so much and you enjoy those relationships. So I think the biggest thing is just, communication, and just them sharing their heart and their vision, breaking bread. I think I was sharing with you before we started, my head coach and I, we eat lunch together 5 days a week. So we know about each other's families and who's doing what, and hey, how'd this go? And, oh, you're looking to buy a new truck. What are you looking at? Mm-hmm. So it's not just that segment of, okay, hey, we coach together, is we're doing life together.
Yep.
And both those things are intertwined the way we approach things. Mm-hmm. So, communication and relationship, I think, are the two biggest things from the head coach down to the assistant coach.
Lovely. And so then what do you believe makes a good assistant coach?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and I learned this when I was doing youth ministry, and as I started coaching, I started trying to do some studying and looking and just talking to people. And I think us as an assistant coach, if we go to our head coach and they've got so much on their plate that we don't even know about sometimes. Over the years, I was blessed to be able to be given more and more responsibility to learn it, but the paperwork, dealing with parents. But if we go to them and essentially say, okay, what are you required to do as a head coach? What's the most rewarding for you personally as a head coach? And what gets the greatest return on your investment? And if we empower them and say, coach, look, I'll handle the other stuff. You don't worry about laundry. You don't worry about a clean locker room. You don't worry about the kids having to be on time, or if the jerseys, are hung up. You do those 3 R's that are the biggest things that will come back to the program.
Yep.
Some of those things they certainly don't enjoy, but they have to do because administration puts it on them. Mm-hmm. So if me as an assistant coach, I know he doesn't have time to look for what we need for gear next year. He doesn't have time to do the laundry, to check with the other assistant coaches to see if, okay, do you guys have your practice plans scripted? Is the water ready to go? Are the towels out there? The footballs? Where is the trainer aware of everything? What do we need to know from the trainer? And so I think if we do that for the head coach, and if we look at our jobs as we are there to make them the best head coach ever, and to make sure there's nothing negative hits the paper about the program with their name in it. Because as assistant coaches, our name is never in the paper on Friday nights, or Saturday mornings, I should say. It's the head coach. But so how do I help that be a positive thing, and for him to have the biggest impact on what he is best at with the program? And I think it's those kind of things. And again, 100% loyalty to him, never trying to, backstab, things like that. And just, again, communication from the bottom up, so to speak, that players, you'll have a better relationship. And I've learned this being a head coach in other sports, and then the short time I was a head coach in football. As a coordinator and a position coach, I've got a different relationship with our players than they feel like they can go to the head coach with. They'll come to me and talk about, coach, I didn't like this play call, or why are we doing this? And I'm able to talk to them, sort of head some of that stuff off. Or I'm able to encourage them, hey, let's go sit with coach, and so we can talk about this and check in on you and see how you're doing. So it's really just to make them the best. I've seen assistant coaches or the freshman coach. When I came into a school, he's like, well, the head coach for the varsity isn't there for usually the first quarter. So that's when I sort of run the stuff that I want to run. We're not there for that.
Yeah.
To implement their system, to train the kids the same way. And I even look at that too, assistant coaches being the JV freshman guys, lower levels. when I was a JV head coach, I didn't try to run a different system or make different calls that looked good. I wanted to have it. The best thing as an assistant coach for me is that my kid in my position group or my JV kid could move up on a Friday when they needed them and was ready to go and ran the exact same stuff. Not that, we were a wishbone, flexbone, triple option team. I'm not going to run 5 wide spread on a JV game to get the kids ready to do that. Although if we went 5 wide, I'd figure out how to run triple and outside veer out of it anyway. So, just veer outside the hash marks. But I really think that's it. I really think, we've got to look at it going, man, I'm going to make everybody talk about him like he's the greatest head coach ever, instead of, because parents are going to come to you and complain.
Yep.
Oh, hey, don't you think? And I've gone back to a program that I left just to watch a game when I was in the interim between starting that new program, and people were questioning, oh, don't you think we should have run this or that? I said, I don't know. I'm not the head coach. I've got his number if you want it. So it's really just, I think, being that support system. And it's not about us. It's always about the team. So I think that's the biggest thing. Everything you do has got to be about building the team and building up the coach, not tearing them down.
Lovely. So when or how do coaches know that they're ready to take that next step and be in charge of the program and be a head coach? Or if they're just an assistant coach, how do they know that they're ready to take the next step and be in charge of a side of the ball and become a coordinator?
I think, again, with that, it's really, you've got to find somebody who's mentored you along the way. And I've had that, and I've tried to seek it out by some of it going to clinics, learning guys that I'm not going to have a relationship to talk to every day. But at the clinic, I get to spend an extra hour with them afterwards asking things and going, okay, now I'm trying to understand this. Why would you do this? And instead of me just looking at it when I was a running back coach, okay, now why is this running back's path so important in the overall scheme of what we're running? And then I had to start learning, okay, because the offensive line is blocking this, the wide receiver is doing this. And so we're trying to get to this concept, and so that we see how everything fits together. And once you start getting that picture, you feel like, hey, I'm getting these concepts. Go and talk to the head coach. Hey, coach, someday I want to be a head coach. I want to be a coordinator. Or even telling them, hey, if there's ever an opportunity on the staff, and sometimes they'll start, you go, okay, here, go down and be the JV defensive coordinator, so you learn how to put together a program and what it looks like. And that's where I was blessed. I was able to do that and be a JV head coach after I was a position coach. I was a JV defensive coordinator. My second year coaching, they gave me the defense. And then shortly after that, I was able to be a JV head coach and freshman head coach, and running everything and learning, okay, there's paperwork, there's scheduling team meals, that there's more than just the X's and O's on the field. And there's so many ways to learn that by going to some of these clinics and learning and reaching out to other coaches in your area. And that's what I've really found. Coaches that, even teams that we played against every year, we did camps together. I'd ask them, okay, hey, coach, when you guys face this, what about this? Or I'd talk to them specifically. Man, someday I want to be a head coach. Why would you make this call for your program with this culture thing or a discipline? I'd see a certain way they'd react to discipline with a player. Coach, can I ask you why you made that decision that way? So try to get insight before you get in that situation. And some guys think they're ready way before they are. And if you look at even the NFL, some guys are just way better coordinators than they ever would be a head coach, because that's their sort of their lid of leadership is for a side of the ball, is their expertise. But I would, look for those opportunities, and I even went and coached Little League, and that was my first true head coaching job. I was a Little League head coach for 2 years, and I didn't know that there was about 150 other coaches in the stands every Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. who were experts, and every one of their kids were Division I prospects, by the way, even the 5'4", 12-pound running back. So you learn to deal with those things. And then when I went back into being a coach at the high school, I was like, okay, now I've got a little bit of experience with that. who else can I learn from? What books can I read? And not just even in football. I read a lot of books by John Wooden, other guys in leadership in other sports.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff about Phil Jackson with the Chicago Bulls. Okay, how do you get Michael Jordan dudes to do it? If you look, if you watch that series, you're going,
Mm.
okay, man, he put all that talent and those egos together. How did he do that? So I think it's just a constant learning process. I've gone to some clinics, guys are like, why are you still here? You should be teaching me on this thing. And I'm like, nope. I said, I've always got something to learn. There's always going to be a defense I'm going to see, a scheme I'm going to face, a parent I'm going to have to deal with that someone else knows more than I do about it. So I think the biggest thing is never assume you know it all, or never even assume you know enough, because then that way you're always hungry to learn more.
Yeah, cool. That's some great insight and knowledge for everyone down here.
Also why I shaved my head after all these years of experience. Let me just tell you.
Right. The stress. It just.
Yeah.
Well, I like my hair, so
Yeah.
he's hoping I can keep it.
Yeah.
So scenario time. It's 4th and goal, and you've got 5 yards. You got to win. It's the state championship. You're down by 4, so you can't kick it to tie it up and go into OT. You've got to make a play. What are you running?
Lately and last year, this year I'm changing things a little bit, but I'm running the same play with different formation. But my go-to play for that was our diamond formation, inverted bone, and I would go quarterback power. That was my go-to, and if they took that away, I've got an RPO off of it that they can play however they want. They think they can have the power, but our confidence in our team, we've instilled that in them, that if we've got to get a first down, if we've got to win the game, they don't even have to look at me. They would just know, oh, coach is going to call, this play.
Yep.
So, and I know that they would get 5 yards with that.
Okay.
And they know they can get 5 yards with it anytime. And because we rep it 300 times a week in practice, and go, you better 6 yards on. So that is my good.
That's good. It's always a good thing when the players believe in it too, and know it's coming, and really have that self belief. So that's interesting. Not many people have set a run so far. So interesting.
Well, when you throw the ball, three things happen, and 2 of them are bad. So
yes,
our RPO, run power often.
Yeah, heard that a lot. Well, thank you again for giving up your time. Hope everything with what's going on, be safe.
Same to you.
So, for those watching, again, links in the description below for Coach Smith. If you like this kind of stuff, make sure you give it a like, share, subscribe, comment. The more comments going in, the more we can do for everyone watching, and the different content we can bring out. So appreciate it, and thank you again, Coach, for coming on.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity.
No problems.